This is way worse than we thought. Just when things were starting to click at Bills training camp, a major setback hit the offense. One of Josh Allen's most trusted targets went down during preseason practice, and early optimism about the injury has quickly turned into real concern. With depth already being tested at wide receiver, this could seriously shift the team's plans heading into the season. And now all eyes are on wide receiver Khalil Shakir. My name is Maeve Miller, and I'm a part of the Bills Digest team, so please subscribe to our YouTube channel at Bills Digest for all the newest updates. So like I said, he went down at Friday's practice, and this was kind of the report that broke this. He said it sustained a high ankle sprain on Friday and is currently expected to miss 4 to 5 weeks, sources tell. And I feel like that number is a little bit concerning. I think initially when you hear sprain, you think, oh, like a week or two, nothing too serious. But 4 to 5 weeks is definitely a significant amount of time, especially when this is like a key time for the team to kind of develop and get reps. But McDermott had said that they're on more of a week-to-week status, so they kind of be like playing it by ear. This next few weeks are postseason. We have 3 weeks of those 3 weeks of preseason games, and then the opener is September 7th against the Ravens. So I think there's definitely a hope that Shakir will make it back for that. The Ravens are, a great offensive team. It's always a tough game against them. So ideally, Shakir would be back. But I think there's also the other end where you don't want to rush anything. And I had not known this previously, but this tweet mentions how Shakir had this previous ankle injury. So I think that's definitely impacted this injury now. And that, it's kind of a flare-up. So hopefully that it won't become a thing, like a problem in the future, and that this is kind of just like a 1-2 time thing, and then it's done. Like this tweet said, it's a little more optimistic than Bills fans usually are. It says better now than late in the season, which I definitely agree with, because even if he does miss the opener against the Ravens, there's still 16 more weeks of playing, and if we lose that game, then we'll still have a lot of time to get back into that. There's other tweets like glass half full. This means extra reps for other guys to build chemistry with Josh, because Shakir and Josh already have plenty of chemistry, which I definitely agree with, that Shakir is probably not the guy that they're developing the most during this training camp, that, those free agents and rookies, they're kind of working on more. And also goes on to say that Bills have 4 other quality slot options. So I like the optimism, but still, as, Shakir being one of my favorite players, I really hope that he makes it back by the opener, and that it's not like a rush. I hope that he's healthy enough to play, and obviously I feel like he'll be very vocal with McDermott and the staff because he has sustained this injury again. So yeah, like I said, week-to-week status, and we'll be providing updates on this, and just hoping that it remains more of a minor thing. But Shakir's definitely had a big impact on the team. He just signed a huge contract extension for the Bills and will be on the team in the coming season, which is very exciting. And he led the Bills in receptions and yards last season with a 73 catch percentage and only 1 drop. And the Bills obviously have a unique offense where Shakir, yes, he was the leader, but he still didn't break 1,000 yards or anything. He was in like 890s or something, which I like how the Bills run their offense, but he is like their standout player, but I wouldn't say he's like the star receiver because there's just so many options. But he also contributed a lot in the postseason with 20 catches and 174 yards, which helped the Bills reach that AFC championship. Obviously, they couldn't get it done, but Shakir definitely had an impact in their regular season success and their postseason run. And I just love the kind of player he is. He's super quick, he's shifty, and he would have had some of the highest numbers in yards after the catch, which I love about him. He puts his head down. He can just move so quickly. It's so fun to watch him play. And I feel like he just was definitely one of his more trusted guys. I feel like when the ball was going to Shakir, you knew things were going to happen. And like I said, it wasn't just he caught it, ran out of bounds, catch it, weave around a couple of defenders and get, 10 plus yards after that, which is very exciting. And yeah, I think losing him might shift the offense a little bit, especially with Allen. But Allen, like I said, he has so many other options to go to, and I think that's a great part of the Bills' offense. And I'm excited to see what Shakir can do with his contract extension. I thought that was a great idea because there was definitely a lot of, options. The Bills were, signed back Rousseau, Benford, and Shakir, but there was James Cook that was up in the air, and I feel like people were like, oh, they should sign or extend James Cook now, and others said Shakir, so I'm glad that they did Shakir in the end. And injury or no, I know that he'll make a great recovery. But let's just say that, worst comes to worst. With Bills fans, I feel like you kind of have to expect that things will go wrong. Let's say he's out for a longer period of time, into the months. Who is going to, step up and, be able to be that wide receiver 1 spot? There he is, Keon Coleman. I think that he will step up. I've maybe made videos about this before, but himself, the coaches, the fans thought that he really was lacking last season. He had very high expectations, and it felt like they weren't met. And he knows that more than anybody. And he's talked about in training camp, mini camp, how he's excited, he's hungry for that. He wants to be the best player he can be, and he knows that he didn't play as well as he could last season. So I think Coleman is probably that wide receiver 2 spot. So I think if Shakir, knock on wood, were to be hurt a little longer, that Coleman would have to step up. And I think in that next spot, it would be Curtis Samuel, who's probably the wide receiver 3 spot. He also had a bit of an underwhelming year for having a bigger contract. In 2024, he had 31 catches for 253 yards with just 1 touchdown. And this was across 14 games with just 2 starts. So obviously he's not, starting as much, playing as much as the other guys, but for getting, a multi-million-dollar contract, you'd hope that he'd be stepping up a little bit more. And, there is a lot of developing that's been going in these preseasons, and I know McDermott and the offensive coordinator are very confident. So I think that Curtis Samuel could definitely, fill that role. Other guys that are notable are Joshua Palmer and Eli Moore, who the Bills obtained during free agencies. And Josh Palmer is facing a little bit of a minor injury right now, but I think he'd probably be that 4th spot, with Moore maybe being the 5th spot. But it is interesting. The 2 players that Sean McDermott mentioned were Tyrell Shavers and Christian Wilkerson. And but this is more about his injury. That kind of makes it seem like it won't be that big of a deal. This was about, Shakir. He said he's dealt with one before. He's extremely tough and a big part of our offense. It's going to take some time. High ankles normally do, so it's an opportunity for, again, somebody else to show us what they got, and we'll see how that goes. So I like his view on that even though Shakir is hurt, that someone else will be able to step up, like Shavers and Wilkerson. And Shavers was a former practice player, didn't get as much playing time, but was elevated in that. And Wilkerson was also obtained during the free agencies. He doesn't have as much of a experience. He's been on a couple teams, bounced around. But McDermott, he said about them, because these 2, I think, have really done a good job. Shavers have been with us, so we certainly know him a little bit more and have had a broader sample with him. Wilkerson does a nice job. He's played offensive and played special teams as well, and has a history of doing that and doing that well. I've been pleased with both those guys. So I feel like that's definitely exciting to see. And like I said, Wilkerson will probably be more special teams. These guys are kind of fighting for these 5th, 6th spots on wide receiver. Shavers, is more of a name I've heard about, but hopefully these guys, worst comes to worst, that they'll be able to step up in the backup role or the later string role or even special teams. But I think the best part of the offense is that Allen does throw to whoever is open. I think the Bills set the record last season. They were setting a bunch of records, but a notable one was that they had the most touches, most guys. I think that was with the most touchdown as a tight end. They reached, I think, 13 it was in a season, which is just a crazy impressive number. So that's why, if Shakir or even Coleman gets hurt, which would be awful, they still have options on the tight end spot with Dalton Kincaid, Dawson Knox, or even the running backs, James Cook or Ty Johnson, have been known to catch the ball and be vital in some 3rd down catch plays. So even though Shakir is a key part of the offense, I'm not too worried about it because we have so many other options and great players that do step up if needed and under pressure. But we'll be monitoring his injury, and in hopes that it's just, like the report said, maybe anywhere from 3 to 5 weeks long at the longest. But McDermott said week by week. So we'll see what happens, and hoping that he has a great recovery, stays healthy, and that, the preseason next week can start off on a good note. I'm excited to see that. Obviously, we'll be reporting on all of that. So please stay tuned, and once again, subscribe to the Bills Digest YouTube channel. Thanks for watching, and go Bills.